live.
Welcome to this week's What's the Tea episode, in which we feature either a staff or community member and highlight the work that's being done at South Suburban Family Shelter or around certain topics that relate to our work. This week we have Letitia with us, and we're going to have an exciting topic that's centered around mental health. Some of you guys may know that May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so there's a lot of different campaigns and programs that are going on throughout the United States to just raise awareness around mental health and kind of debunk the stigma that can often surround mental health. And so we have the pleasure of talking to Miss Letitia and really highlighting one of our programs, our program is called Sanctuary, and Letitia works there. She's going to tell you all about it. And at Sanctuary, at Sanctuary, we have an amazing class called Healthy Living that is done. It's really like facilitated group therapy with the women that are there. So we're gonna talk more about that, learn about strategies for mental health, and just like the lessons learned when it comes to helping people really find creative ways to support their mental health. Okay, Letitia, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
My name is Letitia. I am a family therapist out at Sanctuary, which is our transitional home, where we have 10 apartments and moms and their kids live there. And it's like a up to 6 months to 2 years where they're there. While they're there, they get case management, financial education, healthy living, individual therapy, as well as as well as their own camaraderie, being able to be with other people who are going through the same things that they have just escaped from. All these women are, of course, survivors of domestic violence. So in the time that they are there, they leave with a lot of information and a lot of helpful tools to help them hopefully not to get back in this situation ever again.
Okay, awesome. And how long have you been with the organization? I know this is your second time being on T, if I'm not mistaken, but just give us a little bit more about your background. I think that was a while back where Zach interviewed you. So if you could just give
Okay,
us a little bit
so I
about your
have
background.
been with the agency that I did not know this. Raphael, my supervisor, said, "Hey, you've been with happy anniversary." I was like, "For what?" And she's like, "5 years." Oh my God, it has
Wow.
been 5 years. What in the
Wow.
world? So I've been with him for 5 years. Before this, I worked at Trinity Christian College as a residence director.
Mhm.
And before that, I worked in youth ministry with an organization called Young Life, did that for many, many years. So I
Mhm.
have always been around those that are in need or need some assistance, which I love because I love people. I love, love, love people. If you cannot tell, I am a true extrovert. True and
Yes, you are.
so
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the healthy living class? I don't know if you know the origin of the class or not, but just what's the purpose of this class and how does it help the participants in Sanctuary in terms of their mental health and just provide the tools and strategies that they need to support their mental health?
okay. Healthy living, I'm not sure when it originated because when I
Mm-hmm.
got there, I was already there. And they were like, "Hey, you're going to take over healthy living." Okay.
Yeah.
So I know before me, sometimes the class was based around like exercise, cooking, those kind of things. But we changed it once I started doing it. And we moved it more so towards, you know, what are triggers, what are healthy, unhealthy relationship dynamics. We talk about how to effectively utilize self-care. What does self-care look like? What are your coping skills? What are the dynamics of, healthy and unhealthy friendships, family members. So we talk about a lot of those things, how to build your confidence. What does depression look like? What are some coping skills and tools that you can use to combat depression? What does it look like? What are your triggers or your signs? We also talk about time management. We also talk about parenting dynamics as well. And the reason why I love healthy living is because all of the women, they are required to be in class. So all the women are able to sit around the table, well, used to pre-COVID, sit
Mhm.
around the table and listen to other people's ideas and strategies that they do in their own apartments, and giving other ideas to the, the other women. They're like, oh, I've never thought about that. Oh, well, let me do that. And then also, it's a good place for women to start being just a little bit more vulnerable with other women, because, of course, you're like, I don't trust anybody. But being able to sit in class and being able to say, okay, this is someone who I think that I can be okay with getting to know, and just dropping their guard and being truthful in the class. Sometimes, you have to rein them back in, but
Mhm. Mhm.
for the most part, it's a really good camaraderie for everybody. So right now we are meeting online, so everybody zooms in, and it's different because in
Mhm.
class, I can y'all together. But at home, it's different because you have some cooking and you're like, can't cook right now. You have
Mhm.
some trying to get their kids, to get out of the camera. I told you, be in a place where kids aren't here. So it's a different dynamic, and a lot of different tools are being brought out because we're doing it online, but it's still very helpful.
Yeah, that makes that's amazing. It's like, you made the point that because these women have experienced some abuse, they may have some trust, some apprehension at trusting. How do you navigate that when if someone comes in and they don't feel safe or they feel guarded in the beginning? How what strategies do you use to help them get more comfortable?
Well, we have some clients who in the past who did not like to come around groups of people. And I would just tell them, okay, one, the class is mandatory, but more importantly, I just want you to be able to come and hear what the other ladies are saying. So most of the time, if I know that that's an issue of them not wanting to be around other people, they don't trust anybody, they don't want anybody in their business, I just ask them to come and sit in the class.
Hmm.
Just sit and listen. So no one is forced to talk. No one has, no one, I don't say, all right, I want to hear from you. Now, at the end of class, I do ask, hey, what are you taking away from class?
Yeah.
Some people will answer, some people won't. And that's totally fine too, because I'm going to see you in individual therapy. So you're going to tell me then.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see differences in the behavior of the women between from when they're in healthy living to when they're in individual therapy? Does
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. I have some that are very truthful and very real in class.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have some who give all the right answers, but when I meet with them individually, none of those right answers are present. So, but it's okay, because in my mind, if that's what you need to do to cope in class, and what you're saying could be very helpful to someone else. So I don't shut those things down. I do let those go forward. Sometimes I'll reword and get some clarification of what they're saying. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is very different. You have some that are very, very quiet in class that won't speak at all, but in individual they have so much to say, which is great. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have some that are the same, talk a lot in therapy, talk a lot in group therapy. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't change. It just depends on what the topics are,
Yeah.
and creating the topics, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So for you guys that don't know, that may be watching, and again, we're talking about mental health awareness, and in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we're highlighting one of our programs, which is our transitional home, which is called Sanctuary, and Sanctuary has a class called Healthy Living for the women that are living there, and Letitia facilitates that class, and I have actually been working with her to co-facilitate some of those weeks, which I've been enjoying. I enjoy. First of all, Letitia is great working with her because she's fun, she's knowledgeable, she's personable. She makes it her own. She has a great vibe in the class. She has a. You can tell she has this really strong personal relationship with all of the participants in the class, and it comes out during the group session as well. So yeah, we end up just doing a lot of powerful work, but also having a great time doing it. So, how do you come up with the topics?
Okay, well, sometimes when I'm doing individual therapy, I'll hear a certain topic that keeps coming up.
Okay.
Um, And if he keeps coming up, then I'm like, okay, so we need to talk about this as a group, because just me and you working through it, meaning me and the client working through it, is not always enough. It is enough, but sometimes you just want them to know, one, they're not in it by themselves. So sometimes if it's like confidence, working on confidence, like, let's talk about that. Or,
Yeah.
making healthy decisions for yourself. What does that look like? So if I hear a lot of that in my individual sessions, that's how sometimes I come up with my curriculum of what I'm going to talk about in healthy living. Sometimes, if there's a lot of stress and everybody's stressful, sometimes I have to think about, all right, so let's think of some fun coping skill things. Because once before, when we were meeting face to face, we used to do painting, as a de-stressor. And that was amazing because they were like, oh, this is what we're doing. But at the same time, when we're painting, there's still a lesson in the painting. It's not just, oh, we just gonna paint and have fun. No, we're gonna paint and still learn something. So,
Mhm,
so,
mhm.
and not only that, but years ago we did create topics that we want to make sure that we hit for each person, for each group in each class before they would exit sanctuary. And some exit sooner. So I have to make sure, okay, you just got here. So I have to make sure I cover this
Mhm.
with you. So it just depends. It's sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is a refresher. We need to do this again. So it depends.
So, can you list some of the topics that you guys have covered? I know since I've been a part of the class we've done, we just recently did confidence,
Mhm.
self confidence. Um, we've done self talk,
Mhm.
positive self talk, and affirmations. We've done burnout, emotional burnout, talking about that topic. What are some other topics you've covered?
We've done thought stopping because a lot of them have a lot of negative thoughts, and just realizing how to stop those thoughts. They hate when we talk about that because every time they have a negative thought, they have to come up with three positive. And they're like, that is so hard. Exactly. So how it's so hard to come up with positives, but it's so easy to come up with negatives. So
Exactly.
just having them rethink that. We've also done time management where I have them all write out what their schedule looks like around the clock. And then they're looking at their schedule and saying, what in the world have I been doing? So we've done that. We've talked about, like I said, we talked about depression. We've talked about what anxiety looks like. We've talked about, like you said, self-esteem. What else? We do talk about parenting and what does it look like to parent your kid as well as to take care of self. Where's the divide? I
Mhm.
get it that we're here at transitional housing, but at the same time we're still trying to help you find you again. So those are some of the topics. And of course, we talk about relationship dynamics, the power of saying no. And we talk about different ways to say no and be okay. Because a lot of them feel like when they say no, they have to have an explanation of
Yeah.
why. So we talked about different ways that you can say no without having to give an explanation. So that was very helpful for them as well. And also how to advocate for yourself. That is a huge one. So
Yeah.
them being able to stand up for themselves without feeling like they're hurting somebody else's feelings. I'm not
Mm.
saying don't care about other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Don't care so much about their feelings that you forget about your own, because you are
Yeah.
just as important, if not more.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That makes me remember we talk about boundaries a lot in the
Absolutely.
class. Yeah. Also, you give a lot, you give, it's a trauma informed approach, and it's very holistic. So you're often talking about time management, you're talking about mental, emotional topics, but then also you're talking about exercise, you're talking about drinking water. Can you speak to how important that is to our mental health?
Well, a lot of my clients, I will ask them, so what'd you eat today? And they're like, oh, shoot, haven't eaten today. I'm like, wait, what? So,
Mm,
and I'm like, oh, you got that big cup of milk. Wow, look at that. Now, how much water did we drink today? Not saying that I'm coming at them, because if I have a good relationship with them and this is something that they say they want to work on, then I bring it up in a way to where I'm not coming down on
yeah.
them, chastising them. But it's more of a, wow, so you got all that milk. You're going to drink about the same amount of water, aren't you? I know you are. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah,
It's holding them accountable for those goals. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And just also when it comes to talking about all those different, being able to exercise, doing yoga. Yoga hurts for a
Yeah.
lot of people, but find something that's for you, because
Yeah.
they'll say, well, I don't have anywhere to exercise. There's so many on YouTube. Let's look at those together, you know.
Yeah.
So being able to, and the biggest one, getting sleep. A lot of them do not sleep. Their mind
Mhm.
goes a mile a minute.
Yeah.
Just teaching them how to get a bedtime routine,
Yeah.
how to journal, teaching them how to turn off the phone before you go to bed, turn off the TV, and have some quiet time before you go to bed. Just helping them build their own routine that's going to work for them and to help better them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think one of my most favorite classes was when we created the music playlist,
Hmm.
and we talked about each person shared a song that inspired them or made them feel powerful, and gave the song suggestion.
You like mine, bitch. I know it was mine. It was mine that you liked. I know it was mine.
Yours was very dope. Yes, I loved it. But yeah, with everybody's, I went back and looked for those songs, and I was really inspired by the music. And I think that there's power in that peer support,
Mhm.
because they're meeting with you individually, but they're also able to come together and learn from each other, each person having different strengths and weaknesses. So it's great because we're getting the information from each other. It kind of creates this feeling of cohesion, like, okay, everybody's in this together, everyone's growing, everyone's trying to prioritize self-care, everyone's healing. I just think that's really an amazing aspect of that class.
Absolutely. Not only that, a lot of them, like I was saying, don't speak a lot of positivity toward themselves.
Yeah.
So just having them just standing in the mirror and playing that song and seeing how it reflects to you and what do you see about yourself in that song.
Yeah.
That even speaks volumes because a lot of them are like, I don't want to look in the mirror. I don't like how I look. I don't this. And so it's hard for them to deny that. If this is your favorite song, why is it your favorite? What about that song speaks to you and about you?
Yeah.
And Lysandra
Yeah.
don't want to tell y'all, but my song was Brick House. This girl is a brick house.
Yeah, that's her song every week that we talk about.
They know it.
Oh my god. So yeah, I think that so with it being Mental Health Awareness Month in May, knowing that oftentimes I think for every community there's a certain level of stigma or this hush hush energy around the topic of mental health, right? I think that's especially true often for communities of color.
Mhm.
Have you seen that when women come into sanctuary, you start doing the counseling with them personally, or having them come into the class? Do they ever feel any sense of shame that they're operating or that they're participating in those classes or in the counseling?
No, I think by the time they arrive at sanctuary, they have already did some kind of work, just a little bit. It's
Yeah,
different at their shelters or wherever they're coming from. Right now, it's completely different because a lot of them are coming from like hotels and that kind of place
yeah,
because the shelters are full. So that's a little different. But even when they come, that trust is still not there. You're like, I don't know you. I don't know how much I need to share. I don't want y'all in my business, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So I haven't, I'm going to be honest, I have not seen a lot of people of color saying, I don't believe in therapy. We pray about it or keep my problems to myself. What happens in the house, stay in the house. I have not seen that, which is
mm-hmm.
very interesting that you brought that up. I have not seen that at all. Most people, when they get there, they're like, look, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I need. So if you're going to
Yeah,
help me get there, let's do it. And I always have to tell them, well, I'm going to help you get there.
yeah,
Not me
yeah.
help you. We're going to do this together. This is a team thing. So I'm not, in the business of let me just fix it. No.
Do you think that that stigma or that shame is not there because of where they may be in their journey by the time they come to sanctuary? Okay.
Absolutely. Because I feel like, once, like I said, when they get there, they're like, this is where I've been. I do have, a strong faith, but and sometimes even that, is a
Mhm.
issue for them because there has been spiritual abuse that they
Yeah.
have acquired. Someone telling them, no, you can't
Right.
go to church. No, you can't pray. No, you have to be this, religion with me. You can't have your own. No, my kids won't be raised in that. They're going to do this. So a lot of that comes with them. But by the time they get to sanctuary, it's more of a, I am free.
Mm,
Let me start at the bottom and move up in who I want to be. So
That's
that
amazing.
changes a lot of their mindset when they get there. It's like, who do I want to be? And we do talk about that. Who do you want to be? What do you want to get out of therapy? What are you hoping that when you leave sanctuary, you have accomplished? And not just going to school and that kind of stuff, but what have you accomplished as being a mom, as being a new individual doing this mom thing by yourself? But we always have to remind them, you're not by yourself because we're still with you, you know. But just letting them know that this new you that you are creating, I want you to create the best you that you want you to be.
Wow, that's amazing because I think it really speaks to the fact that that word transitional, it is like
Mhm.
truly a transition for them in
Absolutely.
every sense of the word.
Absolutely.
Not only that, for many of them, it's the first time that they really can take personal responsibility for every aspect of their life. They can take ownership because when we think about we're dealing with people that have experienced domestic violence where the goal of the abuser is to have power and control
Mhm.
over that person. So now they have finally taken this up. And I feel like that comes up a lot in the class, even though it may not be explicit, but it's this
Mhm.
idea that you took a step to take authority over your life,
Absolutely.
to take your power back. And
Mhm.
so now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And you're helping them answer that question through your work with them and through the class.
Not
Uh,
only that,
yeah,
to add to that, I also have like a lot of parents when they come, it's one of those, okay, I was raising the kids, but you know, the dad or whomever, the male had the final say, or female, whichever, they had
yeah,
the final say. So now when they come to healthy living, you know, or to sanctuary, and we start doing parenting classes or parenting tools, they're like, oh, well, I didn't know, you know. So just even teaching them just the fundamentals of how to be a parent, how
yeah,
to parent your kid, because once they come there, they're like, oh well, it's my fault that I was in that situation, so I don't want to be hard on my kid. No, your kid still needs routine, discipline, and schedule
yeah,
as well. So just teaching them that just because you were in that situation, okay, you're not there anymore, so let's change our mindset.
yeah. That's really great. I definitely have heard you reiterate that too about having the kids on the schedule, making
Hmm.
sure the kids have a routine, holding the children accountable.
Hmm.
And so they really are stepping into authority as a parent too on
Absolutely.
another level and having to figure that out and figure out exactly what their approach to parenting is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that could be scary, and overwhelming. So to have the class, to have, like you said, okay, you're doing it, but we got you. Like we got you. We're
And not
here.
only that, we do family therapy. So I have been in those apartments teaching, you know, what does timeout look like? What does 1, 2, 3 magic look like? What
Yeah.
does, you know, telling a kid to clean up, but at the same time, them thinking they're in control, but they're not. You know, like, hey,
Mhm.
you can put your shoes by the front door or in your bedroom. They're like, oh, I get a choice. You do get a choice, but I'm still in control but they don't see that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh. So it's kind of like letting them think that they're in control, but at the same time, you are guiding them, but not guiding them with the iron fist.
Yeah. That's amazing. So in terms of like this type of work, giving them those parenting tools, giving them the tools that they need to really take care of their self, right? Body, mind, so just all of who they are, their whole person.
Mm-hmm.
what what have been the greatest challenges that you've faced and what have been the greatest triumphs that you've seen or experienced?
I would definitely say my greatest challenge is when a parent comes and they're like, okay, fix it. No, I can't fix it. I can help you and we can walk this walk together, but I can't fix it. Or my kid won't listen to me, but they'll listen to you. Okay, well, let's talk about that. You know, so just
Mm-hmm.
even those things of them trying to find their voice, that has been a huge thing. Also, when they get to sanctuary, sometimes they're so exhausted from the trying to find somewhere to stay, running from their abuser, getting somewhere safe to where when they get there, sometimes they check out. And by check out, I mean, it's like, okay, I can sit and breathe now.
Right.
But we try to make sure they don't sit in that breathing state too long. It's like, we got stuff to do, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a huge challenge. One of my, I would say the accomplishments that I see as a success is when parents leave and they take the tools that you have given to them and it's not something they leave behind. So one of my clients, one of my individual therapy. I did this in group in healthy living is I do the stool analogy. Carol gave this to me. We do the stool analogy, and there's 4 legs on the stool, and it's trust, respect, love, and I think it's not honesty. But anyway, so on there, and we put the stool together leg by leg. So on the first leg, like, which one of these components is the best to you? And they're like, love. Okay, so what does it mean to be loved? What does love look like? So we did that in the class, and it was very good to hear that. And we put the leg in, like, can you sit on this? And they're like, no. So we do that one by one with each component. And once we're done, like, can you sit on this now? Can you sit on this stool? And it's a stool they get to take with them, and they write the words on each leg.
Wow.
So one of my clients who has moved out, now they have a lot of stuff in their apartment, but just to hear them say they wanted to make sure that they took their stool with them meant a lot.
Wow.
Wow. So that is something that you are definitely making sure you take with them. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they could have taken, but they were like, can you make sure you get my stool? And I was like,
oh, wow.
that was amazing. So I'm glad that those things that's a huge success, that they don't just walk out and go on about their business, but they walk out healthy.
Yeah. How? And how long does each person stay in sanctuary?
That varies. We've had some that have moved in, have been there for 3 months, 6 months. Some stay longer. The program used to be, up to 2 years. We try not to do the 2 years if we can help it, because we want them to move faster. Because one thing that some people don't know is that when you move into transitional housing and you stay for the complete 2 years, you only have 2 years for your entire lifetime. So if you stay for 3 months and then, or 6 months and something happens and you have to move back into a transitional house, you still have a year and a half that you can use again.
Okay.
But if you use your whole 2 years up and something else happens, it's kind of hard for you to get this kind of assistance. Not saying you can't get it somewhere else or get something else, but for 2 years, that's your whole entire lifetime. So you have to be mindful of that. So we try to move them out quickly as we can. So.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense. Going back to this question about the stigma that's on mental health in general, just from your opinion doing this work, how can we move away from that? Just for every community, what are approaches? What are ways that we can even maybe frame mental health and frame things like group therapy or therapy in general in ways that make it something that people feel that they can accept or not feel that there's a shame connected to that?
I always tell people, okay, so let's say you have a headache. What do you do for your headache? I put a cold rag on my head, or I take a Tylenol, or I try to sleep it off. Okay, so you're taking care of those things. So what do you do when you scratch yourself and it's bleeding? You put a Band-Aid on it. So what do you do when your mind is racing and you can't control it and you've done everything you can think of? Why not talk to someone? So it's kind of like saying, just because there's so many things with going to therapy, I try to cast all those things down when I'm talking to them. If there is an issue, tell me, what is your stigma that you have? What do you think about therapy? What are your pros and your cons? And we go through those, each one. The biggest one I would say is, I don't want nobody, all of my business, because I feel like if I talk to you, you're going to tell this person, you're going to tell that person. So even meeting with them, I explain the confidentiality, what that looks like, how this will be a walk that we're walking together. And if I was to ever do anything to offend or hurt them, we will talk about that. That is never my goal and never something that I strive for. So just talking about the things individually, piece by piece, one by one, and just being able to cast down each and every one of those stigmas is pretty much what helps.
Okay. No, that absolutely makes sense. I think that different people probably have different reasons.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, why they're afraid or why they have that stigma or why they would think this is not something for me. But I think you're right. Yeah.
I'm not crazy. Well, what is
right? Right.
Like, what does crazy have to do? I don't need to be on medicine. Okay, that's not what we're doing. We're just talking. Or my mom went to therapy and it didn't work for her, so it's not gonna work for me. Okay, that was mom. That's not you. So
Yeah. And I feel like that I like how the class is even called healthy living because it really is about lifestyles.
mhm,
What did you like? What type of lifestyle supports a strong mental health and
mhm,
self-care and all that? That's really what it's about. It's about lifestyle choices, I think. Yeah.
absolutely. And
That's
even when I first started doing the class, I used to always cook dinner once a month. I would cook dinner, and we would literally.
been a part of the class back then.
You so funny.
How can we get back to
I mean,
that?
we will. So I would literally have the food in the middle of the table, and we would learn how to eat as a group,
Hmm.
something that they can model for their family when they go back, with their kids. Like, this is what, all right, this is what we're doing. So I'm talking about, hey, so what were the highs and lows of your day today?
Hmm.
So what was something that you don't want to do or repeat tomorrow? What is something different you want to do tomorrow as we're eating and you're passing the food, kind of thing. So that was eye-opening for a lot of them, and a lot of them did start having dinner as a family instead of sitting in front of the TV eating. So
Yeah. That's amazing because it's remarkable because they're literally getting an opportunity to really kind of transition into their adult life again.
absolutely.
But this time with a certain level of support, a certain level of perspective,
Mhm.
um, and something that they're also getting these ideas that they're going to pass down to their children. They're passing this
Absolutely.
down to their kids. Yeah, the things they're
That is
learning.
that is one of the classes we talked about as well. What are your morals? What are your values?
Okay.
And for them to be able to write those out, I'm like, huh. So yeah, it was interesting to hear what those were.
Yeah. About how many do you have participate in the class at a time?
Well, like I said, it's mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to, if there's 10 women in transition, then all 10 are supposed to attend. I would say on a given Tuesday, not online anymore, but and we were face to face, I would say I would have, if not 10, I would have 9. At the lowest,
Okay.
I would have 8. Now, some days, everybody has something to do and we may only have 4, but that's okay. Because when I have whoever's there, I always say, okay, this is who needed it. This is
Mm-hmm.
it's for. And if I feel like it's something that one of the clients missed, then I'll also go over that like at the last 10 minutes of their session, because I don't want to limit their progress, their individual progress, but I'll just throw some of it in at the end to let them know what they missed and stuff. So,
Okay. So if there's someone watching, let's say this gets into the hands of someone who may want to start a group like Healthy Living, their own Healthy Living class at their organization or church or transitional home, um, what advice would you offer to someone who wants to create a class like this and they want to facilitate it and they want to have the kind of impact that you have had doing healthy living? What are some suggestions that you can offer?
no, no, tell them talk to their supervisor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Kidding, just kidding. I would definitely say make sure that they are catering to the demographic of their group. And by
Mm,
demographic, I'm not talking about your race, and I'm talking about what is it that your group that you see is the need. So when you're looking at your group, if you're dealing with people who have addiction, what are some tools that you can talk to about how to counter that addiction? What are some tools to make sure that what are my red flags or my triggers when I know I'm about to slip and fall? So I
mm-hmm.
would definitely say make sure that it's catered to your group who you're
Yeah.
working with, but also make sure that it's an inviting and safe space, because in our groups we always tell them what happens here stays here, making sure you have group guidelines, group rules. And when I say group rules, not something that you create but something that they create for the
Yeah.
group, because you want them to have ownership of it.
Yeah.
So like if they see somebody on their phone and be like, we're not supposed to be on our phones, so it's not you correcting them. So also I would say do your homework. Do
Mm-hmm.
your homework on what tools are effective for your group when you're thinking about that. Some people like coloring. Is coloring going to be effective? I don't know. Adult coloring, when they're doing the mandalas, whatever, how you say it, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people
Mm-hmm.
like doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Creating coping skill toys or, fidget toys, whatever it is that you need, I would say cater it to your group. And when you start trying to facilitate the group, be sure if it's mandatory or if it's optional, because
Okay.
that will be huge, because you will have some pushback if it's not mandatory. And
Yeah.
so you need to make sure which end of the spectrum. And if you do make it mandatory, make sure that your objectives are very clear. Make
Yeah.
sure you define the moment of each class and why this class is starting to take place. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. That's awesome. We're gonna go ahead to the chat. Zach, are there any questions in the chat for us?
Yes, we have one question for Letitia, and it says, "What is your favorite aspect of group work as opposed to individual work?"
this sounds so funny. With group work, it's not so much work on me. So it's more them being able to have the floor and to be able to talk freely and to hear the other thoughts of other people. Because an individual is just me listening to them, me rewording it, me asking, oh, so is this what you're saying? And us working on it together, which is totally fine because we get to go deeper. In healthy living, I'm not going to say it's surface, but you will have like two or three that will go deep and don't care who hears it. But then you also have some that are just in there to, like I said, give the right answers, but that's not really how they feel. So in group therapy, is I know, is this the real you or is it not the real you? So I can see it, but the group doesn't see it. They're like, oh, I didn't know she thought like that. And I'm thinking, she don't. But but at the same time, it's the way they want to present themselves. So I would never shut that down. Like, present yourself that way.
Yeah.
Individual, I would definitely say, is a lot more not intense, but it's more, I would say, getting into the nitty gritty of how we're going to continue to make this journey work for you and how to go deeper in some of those topics that we talked about in healthy living. So, healthy living is like the beginning of the process. And then we take the healthy living, some of those tools, like I said, we talk about an individual and it just goes a little deeper.
Okay.
Hope that answered the question. If not, tell them I need a follow up.
Zach, were there any other questions?
That was it.
Hey.
That was a great answer. I think you got it. That one.
Yeah, I think it did answer it. I think it answered it. It's pretty clear. Letitia, do you have any just final thoughts or anything you want to add about the class, about healthy living, your experience so far? Any other suggestions, especially as it pertains to Mental Health Awareness Month?
Okay, I love healthy living. I do. I love to see the women just break down their walls and just be free in class, just to be themselves or
Mm-hmm.
be the selves they want to show. I
Mm-hmm.
like looking at that. And I feel like even if, they cancel on me for individual, they will show up for healthy living. So they're still getting something. It's not like they're just going to go the whole time at, sanctuary and not get anything. So
Yeah.
I like that even if you don't meet with me individually, oh, but you will. But but if you don't, healthy living is another way for them to get some kind of mental health clarity or education or information to help them until they meet with me again.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think it's I that's why I love being a part of the class. I told Raphael, like I really like it, and I guess there's something about it because you're seeing in real time the impact. Sometimes I
Absolutely.
think individual counseling maybe the reward of that,
Mhm.
right, may be harder to see. But
Yeah.
sometimes I think in healthy living we kind of you see like, okay, I don't know. There was one moment where there was like a transformation where someone came to class and they seemed totally different. Remember? And I was like, and you're like, yeah, this person is like
They
totally
didn't know
blooming.
you yet. They didn't know
Yeah,
you.
they didn't know.
So I'm not talking around her. They didn't
That's
know
what it
you.
was. That's what it was. I was just like, wow, So it's rewarding. I think it's rewarding. Yeah.
I would definitely say also in group, just listening to them talk, sometimes you know what the other one has to bring to the table, but they won't. And it's so hard as the facilitator to not give my answer for myself, because I try not to be, one to give my answers. But sometimes I can see in the group that I need to give an answer. Like when we were talking about how exhausted are you? What's your number, 1 to 10?
Yeah.
And a lot of them were
I
like,
remember
oh,
that.
3. I said, so
Yeah.
if you're at a 3, how are you going to get to a 1?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, right now, I'm be honest, I'm at a 10.
Right.
And one of my clients was like, okay, I'm at a 10 too.
Yeah,
I
I
just didn't
remember.
want to say it. And I just didn't want nobody to judge me. So just being able, because I'm thinking, I know where you are, but if I need to come out and say I'm at a 10 and I really was at a 10, then let me do that, because my thing is your growth is more important to me than you just sitting by, sliding by.
Yeah, let me make that point, because I think that's so great, because honestly, it's like your transparency in the moment was contagious. There was almost like a certain level of affront, right? But then when you got very transparent, it gave them permission. They felt the permission to say, okay, you know what? Me too. Like I'm a 10, I'm an 11.
Right.
So yeah, I think that that's amazing. I think that's also some of the power of this group, that group dynamic. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Letitia, I want to thank you for taking the time out to let me interview you for What's the Tea. I don't think we have any other questions. So we're going to go ahead and everyone, thank you for joining us. Be sure to share this video, like, love, share it. You can go ahead and leave a comment if you missed the time to leave the comment. And
listen to my song, Brick House.
Fine Brick House. It will brighten your day. But thank you. Be sure to join us for tea next week. Same time, same tea. No. Zach.
Same time, same place.
Different tea. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, you guys.